Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, I'm Krusty.
And I'm Peepaw.
And I'm Eric.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast.
What's happening, y'all? This is the Element Podcast, and guess what? You've heard us in other places probably because, as you might know, we've been doing the Rut Fresh stuff, but guess what? We don't need to let our first
We've
love
disregarded.
die. That's right.
Y'all.
We need to come back to this, but here's the deal, y'all. We have been going wild on the road, hunting in all the country. It's like this, man. And so we needed to make sure we could do this podcast justice and couldn't just hop on there while we were trying to eat a taco midday and just say a little something. Instead, we decided we need to get on here and talk about things for real, right? Mm-hmm. So I got some for real guys here. All right. I got the for real Tyler Jones. I got the for real Eric Gentry.
True Tyler Jones.
Yeah, true Tyler Jones. That's right. Yeah. And exquisite Eric Gentry. A couple air flinging Nebraskans over here. Mr. Nebraska Walk himself.
You talking about me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about a Nebraska Walk.
Well, there's a way to do it. You got to be kind of high strung to do it right, or at least attempt to be that way and act that way. But it's a lead with your hips. Don't lead with your feet, really. You lead with your hips. So your feet can't get out in front of your hips when you're going. It's a fairly fast walk. The faster, the better, normally. And you got to make sure your hips are in front of everything else in your body.
I feel as if the Nebraska Walk is somewhat of a dominant walk, but with a subordinate stride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to hold back that toe a little bit.
That's right. You kind of like are on your heels almost the whole time when you're walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a touch bow-legged.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the term Nebraska nice?
Yeah, I am. Mm-hmm. It's similar to Midwest nice, or is it different?
Similar to New Mexico nice.
Oh, okay, I got you.
But it's a little different.
Yeah.
We almost got us a bumper sticker that said Nebraska nice on it.
Really? Oh, my gosh.
We decided to go with corn and bread.
Corn and bread.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. We've been doing some hunting.
Eric likes that one, too.
He does, dude, for real corn.
Love corn.
How do you feel about semi-sweet corn, Eric?
Semi-sweet corn? Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever heard of it, but sounds good.
Okay, good. The corn I had the other day was semi-sweet, and I'd eat it again, I think. It's what the deer are eating.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Yeah, so the world is in a drought, or at least the world that we know in the hunting world. But we are not in a drought when it comes to success, and we'll get to that. So, but drought conditions are upon us across the country, it seems. And it is no different, especially in the Plain States. We were in Nebraska, and the name of the game was resources, all right? And I wouldn't say the Natural Resources Department would be the name of the game, per se, but, you know, the natural resources themselves were pretty important. Saw some weird stuff out there, actually. Saw deer eating things that I didn't even know they would touch. Saw deer, like, ignore water sometimes when... like it would make sense for them to drink. lots of strange things, man. I don't know. That hunt is. I'm still trying to kind of process the whole thing because every time we go hunt in Nebraska, it seems like it's so fast paced that you almost don't have the opportunity to learn about what you're doing because you're just acting on impulse a lot of the times. Kind of like Tyler flushing his fly away over here.
Man, what they can't just they got to try to get in your mouth. You know what I mean? Dadgummit.
Greg's strategy is to act like he's trying to take a truck nap and then just let
it land on your lip.
Let it land on his leg right by his hand, and then he'll get it. But he fully sells out, dude. We'd be driving down the road, and I would think that Greg is napping, and then I'll see him catch a fly. And I'm like, dang, dude, he is like
Indian.
a ninja.
Dude, what's funny, it's a lot like when the deer stares at you and kind of catch you like moving, and you just close your eyes, you know? Okay, if it can't see my eyes.
People say that, don't stare him in the eye, and I never really felt like that.
Oh, if a deer's within 30 looking at me, I'm closing my eyes to the point where I can barely see them out of them.
I usually look at them through the bill of my hat.
Yeah, so you turn your head down?
Yeah.
Or you always have your head down?
I kind of got my head down a lot.
Yeah, you just walk around like
head
this,
down,
Nebraska walking.
Yeah, it's
all the time. Head down. Head down, hips forward, baby.
Tyler, we had 2 different Nebraska hunts until we had the same hunt.
Yeah, we did.
So,
Tale of 2.
What was the first part of your Nebraska hunt like?
It was a hunt.
Yeah.
There was no fun.
Wasn't fun?
No, it wasn't fun. It wasn't
cool either. None of that.
Cool. It wasn't happy. Nothing.
Yeah.
That'd be a hunt, wouldn't it? So anyway, I basically started out going to a place where I'd seen some deer the year before. The first morning that we hunted, and we had a terrible hunt, and we saw a coyote that morning. Me and Eric did, but we saw a bunch of waterfowl and stuff. It was fun. Morning. It was a fun morning.
And hunt.
Yeah, and
a forning. Okay.
There was a lot of cows in the area, so the cows made it. They kind of had destroyed a lot of what I considered was bedding habitat, which is what I was kind of hunting. We were near ag, but in bedding. And when we got there, it was dark, and I was like, dude, there's been cows in here. Last year it was 6 foot tall right here, and now I'm, walking across cow patties or whatever. So that's a depressing thing. Some of these land guys will try to justify having cows as part of your management strategy for deer, rotational grazing and stuff like that. And I think it's a clown show. I think that's a way to satisfy their customers who want to make money off their land and hunt it. And so they like, oh, rotational grazing for 3 months, and then you sell them all. It's like, well, yes, you can still deer hunt, and yes, deer will still be around if you have a bad to the bone property. But what could it be if you didn't have cows? What if your rotational graze was every 7 years, where you grazed them for for 6 month period out of 7 years, and then, you refertilize the property or whatever,
The father of wildlife management, Aldo Leopold, says there are 5 aspects. I think there's 5 to wildlife management: cow, plow, fire, axe, and bullet. I believe, are the 5. So,
your boy Mark Kenyon would be so proud of you.
He better be. I'll teach him a thing or 2.
That's right.
I took wildlife class 4 times in college and still didn't pass it because they didn't like what I had to say about things because I told them cows were stupid. But no, Aldo knew some stuff, right? So there's got to be a certain way that it does make sense. But I would definitely agree that taking something that's luscious and turning it into the lunar surface does not work out very good.
No.
It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. And cows, at the time of hunting on a property, are a bad thing.
Yeah, you know the song Home, Home on the Range where the deer and the antelope play, not where the bison play.
No cows in there.
There's no bison, no cows.
That's right.
Buffaloes, not mentioned.
That's
you know what I mean?
Man. And in fact, I would like to know how many deer were on the landscape whenever the buffalo were prevalent because I bet
Yeah.
there would be less.
Yeah, they stomped them into the ground.
Look like a vacationer in Yellowstone anytime a deer got near buffalo, dude.
Dude, I like a beefsteak, but dadgummit, cows annoy me. And I'm not really like, I don't need beef, you know?
Well, my setup for the first morning was different than yours. I found a cattle trough, which
The first morning you found that thing?
Yeah, we went in the first morning and sat there and glassed that thing.
But you just went, were you going in with that in mind, or were you just going into glass and you ended up seeing it?
I knew it was there.
Okay.
I found it on X and said, okay, we're going to go because I killed
that's right, because I gave you that idea.
No, that's right. Oh, here we go. Call Hunter Dickens. We need him on the phone. So
he can take credit for it.
It's a shameless plug, guys. If you haven't been over to the Element YouTube channel and checked out the public land buck that I killed last year in Oklahoma over a water source, it's a pretty big deal for me, man. Because
I'm trying to take Tony's spot.
I've been telling Tony how dumb he is for so long, and then in a lapse of reason, I followed his tactics and sure enough killed a buck over water on December 30th, nonetheless, right? Like late.
Yeah.
I do believe in the year. And so I knew it could work. And so I found, we call them pilas. It's a round cattle water tank that has a pump of some sort on it and like windmills or whatever. And went and set up about 200 yards from that thing up in a glassing position to watch it. Well, as soon as it starts seeing light, we see two bucks down there and they're headed our way. So Greg and I start making moves on them, and I end up making the wrong move. If I'd have just stayed where we were, we probably could have shot them from our little glass and knob. But you know how it goes, man. In the moment, you're just doing your best to make the best decision, and you have to learn from it. And that's where what makes bad hunters good hunters is the learning, right? You gotta figure out how to adapt and overcome. But at that point, two more giant bucks had moved into the water trough. And I saw them. We went back up to the top, and then I couldn't find them anymore, so I get up on my knees to start looking for them. And then they're there at the water trough, and they're just looking at me, which is the worst feeling. Like whenever a 10-point buck is just eyeing you down, you just feel so stupid. Feel so dumb, and just
because they don't make many of them.
No, and them don't look at you many times.
No.
Usually if they look at you once, they get an eyeful, and then they're out of here.
Yep.
And that's what happened. But we still saw more bucks that morning. So we had a wild time while you were having a tough time. And that's kind of like almost how it went until all of a sudden it didn't. Did you figure anything else out in that habitat over there over the course of the couple days there?
What I started in? Mm-hmm. Not really. I left there real quick and said, nope, not doing this. Then I ended up, where did we hunt that evening? Do you remember? I don't remember what we did that evening exactly. Oh, we went to a different, we kind of drove a ways to something different kind of type of habitat, right? And we were just going to hang a camera and get out of there just to see like what is in there. And as we're like getting within the last probably 100 yards of just a quick scout on this place, we run into like a rager of a rub that's like got a limb hanging out that's just shredded and probably will turn into a scrape. And I was like, man, this is pretty good. And the way it's set up, I started looking at the map and stuff, and I was like, not only can we set a camera here, but we could take, I saw a trail. The trail that we walked to this thing on is like just barely out of sight from the road. So no visual to the road. And I thought, dude, this could be being used in daylight and going to this ag food source. So me and Eric set up, and we had such a good setup, dude. And Eric found a big old deadhead. That was really cool on the way in, and we were just pumped, man. We're like, man, there's big bucks here. This is a good spot, and we're sitting here, near where things can happen and where there's bucks around. So sat there and saw a doe before dark, and that was it. So I saw a half a deer per sit. I went into the next morning and kind of employed this thing that you were doing, which is what we do. We typically try to learn from each other on the strips, and this is why hunting with your buddies is good. The more people you have,
trust.
That's right. The more people you have, the more they can tell you what they're seeing, and you can make moves as opposed to just not seeing something and being lost while you're up there. And so I learned from you that I should probably be a little less aggressive. I wasn't like being super aggressive, but just I need to be more passive, I guess.
You and I are a little bit different on things like this. I like to see a lot of things, and it doesn't bother you to just go be in a thicket. And I don't mind being in a thicket either, but I want to have reason to be there in my mind. Like, I'm not saying you don't have reason to be there, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I have to be convinced of it. It's real hard for me to go sit up somewhere I can't see but like 40 yards and just being like, okay, from what I know about deer, there should be some here. Like, well,
yeah,
it's a good way for me to feel like I'm wasting a morning too.
Yeah. Well, I went and saw some stuff that next morning, and I saw a lot of country real deep and watched deer that were moving to bedding that was probably nearly 2 miles from any entrance. It's probably close to 3 miles from where you could get a vehicle to. And we watched some bucks, some does, saw a lot of deer that morning. We didn't see any bucks that I don't think any of them were shooters. There was one that like I might would have shot, but he ends up, he's probably going to end up being like 100 inches or so. And so I was just not happy with that either. So we kind of started thinking after that, what can we do that's different? And of course, I moved again, which I don't want to step on the rest of your story here either. But
well, I got some buck encounters in there for sure.
Yeah.
Real
quick, I have a PSA here.
Okay.
If you watch our YouTube channel and somebody has a comment that says text and it has a number that's all in circles and stuff, and they say that you're a winner, do not don't get with those people. Make sure that they are like, just don't be dumb, right? Just make sure, because people are going to scam you, and don't be the guy that can be scammed very easily, because just check into it, I guess is what I'm saying, because we've had a lot of guys trying to scam on our channel. They're using our profile picture and telling people that they want a bow or something. They're saying text whatever, this number, and that's like their profile name. I just wanted to say that real quick because we just got another dude that's raging our channel right now trying to scam y'all and get y'all's credit card numbers.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
If you win something from us, which we're going to actually do a giveaway pretty soon, we will announce it on here. So as a podcast listener, just stay tuned on our stuff here so that you know if you won.
That's right. Okay. So speaking of big winners, I thought I was going to be a big winner this evening, and I wasn't. It was the first evening of the hunt. We were driving over to check out a food source that bordered public. Well, we're driving along, and we've got a young set of eyes in the back seat, all right? Michael has got just, I don't know if they have a lot of carrots in Ohio. There's a lot of Amish people there, so I know they grow a lot of different things, but his eyes are good, okay? And we were driving along, and I see
the
him.
Amish joke you made this morning was so good, by the way.
What was it? I don't remember it. I remember
can't say it on here.
Okay.
It wasn't like bad. It was just, specific.
Specific to the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, he does like 3 head whips. And when a person does 3 head whips, it's like he's really trying to get his eyeballs on something. And then after the third one, he looks at me and says, "There's a giant buck." And we drive back and forth like 4 times trying to figure this thing out. And Michael wasn't sure it wasn't a decoy the first time he saw it because it was so decoy-esque. But it was a giant buck. It was a 10-point with short G4s and kind of a tight, tall rack bedded right beside the road on public. So our whole plan for the evening completely changed. And then we decided to stalk this thing for like 2 hours and never see it again. So I don't know if he finally spooked or if he just left or what, but we spent a lot of time trying to do that. And it was one of those things where we all looked at each other after it was over and we were like, we had to try it. Like, you can't just not, right? And I felt pretty good about it because we had good wind. It was still sunny. Like, he didn't have any reason to leave, but he did at some point in time. So we didn't have a great evening there because we just kind of went up somewhere in Glass, kind of close to the road, and saw some deer, but nothing crazy. Next morning, we go in and sit over our water hole again, but we decide to dive off in. And Michael is glassing and filming from up high. Greg and I are down on the water hole, and we got some hand signals worked out to where if Michael sees something before us, he's going to, give us a signal or whatever. Well, he didn't really see too awful much down there in front of us, and I think he's asleep some. But we didn't have much right there in front of us, but we did hang a trail camera before we left, a Moultrie cell cam, which is pretty sick to have in that situation. Man, water holes are like the best for cell cams, man. Like up to the minute information. I mean, it's what helped me kill the deer in Oklahoma too, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I will be honest and tell you that like. There's a way to misuse a cell camera and something that I don't think is very right to do. But if you're going to be trying to check cards often anyways, it's just taking some work out of it. It's all it's doing. Like it's just making it to where you don't have to go in there and mess stuff up. Yeah. Now, if you are trying to like sit in your house and watch college football and check the camera and see if the buck's back there so you can shoot him, it's probably not a nice thing to do.
It's pretty good for harvesting bacon that way.
Yeah, hogs and deer have a different ethos scale, I would say. Mm-hmm. I think most people would say that.
Native versus non-native. That's why brown trout aren't worth anything.
That's right. Rock check them. And most rainbow trout, to tell you the truth. And a lot of brook trout. Trout are all messed up, dude. Except unless you're Mark Kenyon and then they're just trout.
They're just trout, yeah.
So you don't worry about it.
They just look kind of different colored sometimes.
That's right. That's where him and Aldo are a lot different. That and the proper use of the word to.
Yep. He ain't listening, so it don't matter.
I will clown him all I want to then. Anyways, that morning we meet back up with Michael after kind of a slow morning, and he says, "Hey, man, I saw some bucks over here on this hill." So Greg and I get up high and kind of glass around, figure out where those bucks are, and make a stalk. And on the way in, we get the wind right. We do this big old J-hook thing like we're bucks heading to bedding, but we're not bucks. We're people trying to kill the bucks. And we see a prairie wolf. We see a coyote out there. And I remark the coyote, and so does Greg. And we just kind of say, hope we didn't mess this up. Just kind of laugh about it. Well, then we go on up and crest the top of this hill.
Crystal.
And voila, there are two beautiful, glorious bucks standing in the sunshine, eating, browsing, and sparring a little bit, and making a bunch of noise and not even paying attention to me and Greg. And we're like, oh, my goodness, we're about to shoot one of these things. So they're both equal in size, but one is larger in stature. So both like, probably 130's 10 points. But one has a little bit bigger body, and it's the closer one. The one's at 80 and one's at 60. And I've been practicing pretty good, man. And here's the deal. If you're out there hunting the open country stuff, you can't be just thinking that you're going to have the 14-yard chip shots all the time. Like we are not in recurve country, if you know what I'm saying. You need to be prepared for some longer shots. And you need to decide for yourself. I'm not going to tell you what it is or isn't. But you got to decide for yourself what you truly are capable of and what you're comfortable shooting, because you need to hunt differently, I would say, if you're a 30 and in type guy. It's going to be pretty tough to get that close. You're going to need to hunt ambush pretty specifically. But if you're trying to hunt spot and stalk, you might have to stretch it out a little bit. Anyways, so all that being said, I felt pretty good at 60 at that point in the hunt for sure. Still had all my strings on my bow. All that stuff is in good shape. I've been hammering them, in like a 2-inch group at 60, feeling real good. So I'm thinking I'm about to get a shot on this buck. He's walking towards us, not a clue in the world that we are there. I'm set up, ready to shoot, and all of a sudden, these bucks turn their attention down the hill. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can get a shot because they're not looking at us. Except the attention quickly turns from attention to just pretty spook, and these bucks take off running as fast as they can up the hill right at us. I panic. I don't know what to do. I've got my slider pin sight set at like 60, and then the biggest of the two bucks ends up at like 12 yards. We ranged a plant that was at like 12 yards where he was standing, and he got there so fast that I didn't know what to do. I drew my bow. He saw us, and they both took off and ran. Tyler, what is that town that we stayed in 2019?
Bozeman?
In Iowa. Oh, yeah, it was like way out there, right? So these deer ran like a couple states over. We could see them. They were running so far. But yeah, so the coyote messed us up real bad, and that actually is the first time that a sliding pin sight has messed me up. I tend to enjoy that aspect of on my sights. I don't like the fixed thing. I like being able to dial, but that one did not work out very good. So it's okay though, because taking a rush shot on a deer sometimes isn't the greatest thing. I do take fast shots pretty often, but rushed is different than fast for sure. That gets us to our evening of day 2.
Good evening, ladies.
We decide to leave the spooky waters and head to the spooky hills. Got in the truck, drove a long ways, and needed a change of scenery. Needed to go do a little hanging, if you know what I'm saying. We exchanged our walking boots. Actually, didn't exchange them. We added to our walking boots with some cruiser saddles. Hauled off in this piece of public ground. Long ways.
Left Eric hunting back up front somewhere.
We did, dude. Eric is here, and he also is a tag holder. So we did a little swippity-swappity with, and Eric got to hunt a little bit that night, too. He was hanging and banging up there at the front end. We went back there to the back.
And Eric also hunted on the front end of this trip, too. He was a hunting man.
I was more bird watching and camping. And,
yeah, I know y'all are
stuff.
Y'all are like dog walking and stuff too.
Yeah.
Boot spooking, I think.
Catching,
right?
boot spooking, people personing, meeting guys that were boot spooking.
Yeah.
Just
hanging out with folks, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just being good camp partners.
Did you ended up seeing deer after you got down or something?
Yes, when I got down early because of what you're about to talk about. I had a doe
Foreshadowing.
come out, and it was probably after light, but I definitely thought about it.
Yeah.
But it was definitely after shooting light, so I didn't.
Probably not the best thing to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I understand. Sometimes it's pretty alluring to fling one. I like to fling arrows, man.
Well, she was standing there like 15 yards watching me get all my gear together. And I look up, and she's just staring at me and stared at me for a long time.
Yeah. Well, so Eric hunted early in this trip, and then he was hunting this night when we went in. We were like, hey, why don't you, we can hunt 3 people in here. So it's obviously a lot different, not quite as open. There's some trees around, different spots that we can make work, different drainages, that kind of thing. So Eric was going to self-film, and then Michael got to hop up in the tree with me for the first time this year. And the long-haired hippies got to spend some time in a tree not far from me and Michael as well.
Just little Braden, worked on our ponies and did some hunting.
Yeah.
And we were texting not before, but like during the hunt. Tyler and I are close. All right, like we are not far apart. It's like 80 yards probably.
I think it said 86 when you measured it.
We're hunting 2 different trails pretty much. Like we're not hunting the same deer.
It's thick.
As
so,
weird as it sounds.
Yeah. We're hunting. Yeah, that's right. We're hunting. We don't expect to see the same deer because of the travel patterns.
We only saw the same deer a few times because it's does being weird, and does are weird. But like when we set up, I thought about a lot of things, but I didn't think about how close we were as being a thing that would be a problem. Like it never even crossed my mind. It's weird.
Yeah.
But
we didn't know. We also didn't know where I was going to hunt for sure. Because you were there. There's a spot that back in here that I ended up killing before, and in this spot, and that's one of us. You were basically like, well, if you don't hunt there, I'm hunting there, and I was like, all right, go for it, because I wanted to try something a little different, and had some ideas from sitting in there the year before, and I was like, all right, well, we'll go in here and try to figure out something new. So we all, like the 4 of us, Michael, Greg, and KC and I, all kind of scouted our way in. And I kind of, once we got in there, they were letting me know what they saw, but it was kind of just up to me, you know what I mean, to where the final sit is kind of how we do it. So we work our way back, and I'm like, I just want to see a little bit further. No, I want to just see a little bit further because I don't know if this sits up right. And I ended up hunting quite a ways from where I thought I would end up that evening.
We had this big old fat theoretical we've been working on all year about map scouting and figuring out where trails are and all this stuff. And then you show up and the drought's happening and things are not what they used to be. And that's the thing that you have to adjust for, right? OnX is great, but it's not up to the minute.
Right.
These maps are from a year or 2, 3 years ago.
The cover had changed, basically.
Yes, exactly. So with that, deer movement patterns change. And also the necessity to head to agriculture became even greater.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what we were keying in on there.
Yeah, for sure. And so I ended up, we were looking at a crossing that I thought was going to be really good, where deer were going up to ag. And we ended up splitting up at that point. And I was like, okay, well, we're probably going to hunt right in here somewhere, but I'm going to just make sure this is where it is.
Tyler.
And and so we're sitting there. KC's kind of getting anxious, so he doesn't want to hang out with us anymore. And
we got to get in the tree, man.
He basically was like, hey, do you mind if I leave? And I was like, cool, yeah. We're going to kind of look around in here and see what we can make work. And so they walked like literally 35 yards probably. And I'm looking around. I look over at him, and he's like trying to get my attention. And he like points like straight down at the ground like, hey, you might check this out. So I walk over there, and it's the trail. No doubt. Like it's the best trail we've seen, and it happens to be the trail that I saw a buck on the year before. And so when I saw that trail, I knew like there's not only is it the best trail we've seen, we did see some pretty good trails like further down before, like when we first got kind of in there to where we were going to hunt. But I was like, this is good, and this is where I saw that buck last year. What are the chances? I don't know, but it feels good. So me and Michael, they left, and me and Michael got up into a tree pretty quickly, and I think we used like one stick. It was nice, and we ended up hanging out up there and had some deer that started coming out fairly early.
I did not feel very good about the hunt.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds, I think it's because it was hot, and I just was thinking, man, this is going to be rough.
Yeah.
It's going to be, we're going to sit here all evening, and we're going to see deer whenever it's real hard to shoot.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to move last lot.
Yeah.
And I think what we achieved is we got remote enough to where that wasn't the case. But it takes you got to go a long ways back and get pretty tight to bedding. And I think in that spot, we haven't scouted it a ton because it's hard to get back into, and we kind of know how to kill there now. So don't mess things up, just to learn more, really. But I think we are setting up real close to bedding, and we don't really realize how close we are.
I think you're right. I think we are too. And yeah, so I mean, we end up setting up, and I knew where you guys were going to set up. I knew it wasn't that far, and so we get set up, and then you text me like how you don't feel good about what's going on and how you just got set up, which actually it took y'all a pretty while to get set up, because the tree that I hung in last year and that you ended up hanging in is not the most fun of trees to set up in.
It's also a one-man tree for sure.
Yeah.
So it's tough to get two guys up in there. But we made it happen. It just took a while, and we're trying to be quiet. And so.
Yeah, because we knew we were fairly close to bedding, and the wind's not just kicking. And so it's just quiet, early season type hunt. So we get in there, we get set up. You text me, don't feel good about it. And I was like, oh, man, I feel pretty good right now. And then, wasn't long, and I hear, or Michael or one hears some deer moving back behind us. And I was like, hey, or however it went. He gets the camera on. And the does, they're does, and they come out. They're kind of moving fast. Like, I feel like they're running, but I can't see them. I can just hear them because they're right behind me. I don't want to turn around. And they come around the wrong side of us. They actually come kind of more upwind of us because the trail that we're hunting, this is the thing about public land, is that sometimes you got to pick a tree you can shoot to the trail from that doesn't impede you, and you don't have to saw it down and everything else to get up in it, and basically shoot the deer before it gets to your wind. And that's kind of where we're at in this situation. Well, these does come out on the upwind side of us at like 5 yards, and it's kind of spooky, and then they kind of run off. Y'all see them. You text me, what's the deal with that? I was like, I don't know. They were upwind of us. I don't know. They came running through right beside us. And so I think we had another doe do that, like not long after that. And then right before the next deer came out, I think, we hear something. And I was like, I look at Michael, and we have these like big eyes. And I'm like, dude, was that a shot? And Michael was like, I don't know, but it sounded like it for sure. And the weird thing was, like, I thought it was a shot, but then I couldn't really tell because it had a different, like, through the woods, it had a different kind of frequency almost. And, like, the sound of the two sounds where you would think, like, shot and the arrow hitting the deer were, like, so far apart. I was like, there's no way that was a shot. It's like somebody, like, throwing something way back in, on private or something like that, and, making some weird bounce noise off, or whatever. It's just so weird, right? So then we kind of thought about that for a second. Well, I hear something, and I'm like, hey, something else coming. We get ready, get the camera on. I see a deer coming out. It's a small buck, and he's on the trail that we are set up for. It's just a schmuck. And then I see another one coming out right behind him, and I've got my bow in my hand at this time. I'm like getting clipped on, and it's another fairly small buck. And then I see some legs walking through like cedars or whatever. And I'm like, it's got to be a shooter. Like, I'm not looking for a giant here, you know what I mean? But it's the three groups, or a group of 3 bucks. This has to be a shooter. He comes out and he's like, just a basket 8, and I'm just not going to shoot him. We're way back in there. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm probably not going to shoot this deer. Like, I would be happy in some situations, but this would make for a pretty long night for a deer that, frankly, I can shoot one. I can shoot several of these throughout the year, And so I would, like I said, I would be happy. Don't let that fool you at all. I love shooting bucks, man. It's so much fun. But anyway, so they like are getting the pass. Well, they walk down this trail and they get like, 40 yards from us. Well, they're going to get our wind at 40 yards, and they do. Well, what do? They're early season deer that are also young. They kind of start walking at the smell because they don't know where it's coming from, and they're not used to stuff being that far back in their people too much,
Michael finally got a shower after like 8 days that day too.
And so they couldn't smell them very good. And anyway, they walk up to like 7 yards, dude. I'm there so close. Like, I'm pretty sure Michael's about to pass out because he's not breathing. He's filming, and he's just concentrated, and he's getting this cool footage of these deer right in front of us, dude. And so, I'm kind of like, I think I hung my bow up. They hang out for a minute. They finally leave. And basically, while they're there, I'm getting texts in my pocket. And I don't know who they're from. Do you know who they're from?
I was using my cellular device to communicate the location of a deer with Tyler. However, it was
a dead deer.
A live deer, so no qualms with that. At 6:45, I looked at Greg and I said, man, it's starting to feel like deer time. Probably need to kind of start getting serious about this, because I was kind of down the dumps. I was looking at my phone more than I should have, and, we were just like, whatever. It's dusty and it's hot. But then, like, the shadows start getting long. You start feeling better about it. And then at 6:45, I tell that to Greg, and not literally, it was within a minute, I feel like. This buck pops out a la years before when Tyler's deer also came out in the same exact place, but it didn't do exactly the same thing. He worked a tree line, and instead of coming to the base of the tree, he stayed as far away from the tree as he possibly could, and that's why Tyler heard the as far apart as it was, because I had to do some interesting things. This is the longest shot I've taken out of a tree, and also I was doing the 6 o'clock saddle shot out of the XC, which I haven't taken a whole lot of. I've taken a lot of like 8 o'clock to high noons or whatever out of a saddle, but the straight up, opposite direction of the tree is something new for me. But I got in that position at full draw, and I was like, man, this feels pretty good. I think I can do it. And I ranged the deer, and he's moving real slow, and he's kind of meandering, eating, browsing around on stuff. So I know I'm going to get like a very calm, standing still shot if I'm just patient. I range bushes at 48 where the trail he's walking. So I'm dialed to 48, ready to go. And he stops. I anchor in, and I'm like, oh, I got this. And squeeze off and absolutely smoke him. And he runs like 30 yards and then trots like another 10 and stands there and then stumbles and gets up and then falls right there, just like inside. And it just felt so good. And I was stoked, man, to go back in there and He's not a giant, but he's a great buck, especially after the way that hunt felt like a struggle. I was telling you this the whole time, where like we were on bucks, but it felt like I was struggling at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I was just almost having to force the encounters to make them happen, as opposed to letting the deer come by you. So I was elated to have put this deer on the ground, just to say the least. And then I'm texting you this stuff, and you're not texting me back. I'm like, dude, what is wrong? Tyler needs to like holler at me here. What is going on? So Greg and I are having a party in the tree, of course, but we're trying to be kind of quiet, right? And because y'all are 86 yards away, and I'm thinking, well, there's a chance that Tyler shoots one. And at first I'm like, man, I'm not going to text him because I kind of want to surprise him that we shot one. And then I was like, well, what if me shooting one changes like what he may or may not do tonight? Like maybe he wants to get down and go recover this thing right now, or maybe he wants to, I don't know, shoot another buck or something.
Yeah.
So I waited about 5 minutes and I texted you, and then you weren't texting back, and I was like, okay, Tyler either is like mad that I'm texting him and like doesn't want to text in the stand because he's trying to pay attention or what. Well, little did I know things were going down.
We were locked down with 3 bucks right in front of us that were just snoots in the air, man.
Snooting.
And then when they left, I pulled my phone out to see what the text was all about, and I had a feeling that old shot we had thought we'd heard was actually from you and not from an Indian in a different time zone. And I found out that she shot a buck. She said something like, "What was that?" or something. No, he said, "Did y'all hear that?" And I said, "Yeah, what was it?" And you said, "Sounded like a crash." And so I started celebrating. I was super happy, but at the same time, I was like, "Dadgummit, I wish I'd known that because I'd have smoked that little basket 8 and at 7 yards, just throat patched him like Hunter would probably do, and had 2 bucks on the ground." And so I was kind of a little bit like, man, I wish I'd have known that. And we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I don't know, it was like, it was like the same time. There was 2 messages sent in the same minute, and one of them was like in regards to you shooting your buck from you, and then the next message was sent in the same minute, 7:27. You sent me a message that said, "What was that?" Because I was texting you and I hear something. I put my phone in my pocket, start to turn, and I tell Michael, I think I hear something. And next thing I know, I'm seeing legs under the cedars coming down that same trail, the same trail that's at 28 yards or whatever it is. And so I start to grab my bow, and I turn to look at it, and I can't see the buck's antlers, but I can see his belly, and I knew immediately he was a shooter when I saw his belly. Like I knew immediately this was a stud, and then his antlers come out, and I saw that he was like a decent sized 8-point. I thought, and his beams wrap around real far, so like it doesn't look like he has very long beams. So I didn't know how big he was. I just saw that he looked like a shooter 8, and that Casey had one on the ground. And I was like, I'm about to smoke this deer. So I like as he's coming out, I draw back and I put my 30 on him. My 30 shoots a touch low, and he walks like 7 or 8 yards and stops just natural with his head up looking. And I shoot, and the arrow like disappears behind my pin, like as good as I've ever done it, And he goes running off, and actually, is just spraying. I mean, like I smoked him so good, and he makes this big loop and comes back around, and probably ends up just falling out like, I don't know, maybe 80 or 100 yards from me. Max, and we watch him pretty much fall right there, and we started celebrating, dude. It was a party. And then I feel a text, and I look at it, and it's literally in the same minute that you were texting me about your deer, and it says, "What was that?" because you had heard me shoot. And so I said, I think I called you, and it was hilarious because I was on the phone with you, and me and Michael could hear you through the woods just as good. It was like
we could have been like, "Hey, just shoot!"
It was so funny. Man.
I had a feeling. I don't know why, but I probably told Greg pretty quickly. It's like, Todd shot a bigger deer than I did. I just knew it, dude. I knew it, but I didn't know how big.
He's pretty sizable.
It's a big buck. It's a deer you're considering putting on the wall.
Yep. I've got him caped out for sure. So
he was in my cooler, and now he's in my freezer. I've seen him quite a bit. He's big.
Yeah.
That's a good deer.
He is.
Yeah.
So,
but
anyway,
we both shot cool deer that night, man.
Yeah.
I was very happy with mine. Like I said, he's kind of a funky racked 8-point, and
I
my
hated
first
it because
Nebraska. I don't hate it, dude.
No, your buck is big and like cool and got a weird brow tine and like we would be partying so hard. We did.
We double
party. But I felt like I kind of stole your thunder whenever we went over and found my deer.
Dude, it's just the lightning and the thunder, you know what I'm saying? That's what we had going over there. But it was, dude, I can't replace the opportunity to like both shoot a buck on public.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It was in the evening.
It's going to be a sick way to start this series. So it's going to be really cool. Sorry I don't get to see that footage for a little while yet, but it'll be like I threw that in there.
Eric and Michael... Eric and Michael actually brought us pizza back there.
They brought us pizza, yeah.
We ate pizza before we cleaned our deer.
Yeah,
it was just the best night, dude.
It was. They packed pizza way in for us.
How was that?
2 large pizzas.
Would you pack it like that again in a box?
I think
you wouldn't
so.
put it in a Ziploc or anything? Throw it in the pack?
I think it was easier to carry 2 boxes, I feel like. I don't know.
Do you one-hand them like a server with a tray or whatever?
Once I got there, yeah. But
yeah.
Funny, pizza is a weird thing, man. People just think that pizza's easy to make, but it's real tough. It's a tough thing to deal with. And
takes hours.
Yeah, it's right. These guys produced it so quickly. They were champions. So
they were.
Thankful for it. Eric, after that, quickly switched roles into a hunter.
Yep.
Right?
I did.
And because you're like, do the people know that you are still after your first archery buck?
I don't know if they do, but they do now.
You're after your first archery buck. Eric has laid down the footage a lot on some big deer. He knows what it's like to be close to big deer.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I think that we've talked about this stuff quite a bit because we did some podcasts whenever you first started hanging out with us.
Right, yeah.
About stuff. And but so like you kind of sacrificed some of they're all last year really. You're hunting to be with us, and you're an adult hunter, right? So you didn't hunt growing up as a kid, so you don't have a ton of years.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you were saying he was like not a kid.
I am. He's not a kid. But still single, ladies.
The single ladies.
Amazingly.
The single
I think it's
ladies.
because we keep him out of town all the time. They don't have time to catch up with him.
Yeah.
But you're
definitely it.
after trying to kill your first buck, and apparently you don't want it to be a medium one. You're chasing big ones because you're after big ones. So, Eric, after the pizza night and the 3:30 a.m.s, what happened?
Well, you guys left for South Dakota. Me and Greg stayed back, and man, all the hunts are kind of running together.
Yeah.
But I remember we went back to where you guys killed, actually, and that's where we ran into another hunter, and that night just kind of blew up, and we didn't see anything. So
Oh, man.
that was fun.
Y'all saw some does, right?
I don't think we did.
Oh,
Not that
man.
night. We didn't see anything.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thanks for
tough.
sending me there.
Anytime. I love it.
No,
we blew it out for you.
yeah, that's what it was.
Don't worry, everybody will be there next year too.
And then we went somewhere. Try to make this quick because no one wants to hear and then I didn't kill.
Hey, at least it's not a doe story. At least it's not a doe story. You know what
But
I
I
mean?
can't remember where we went the next morning. So
The next morning would be the one that we...
No, because
Oh, I know where you went. You went to the other windmill spot that I'd sent you, right? And y'all had a spike at like 100 or something like
in
that?
the evening you're talking about?
that was in the evening.
Oh, it was in the evening?
So the next morning, I can't remember where we went and probably didn't see anything. But the next evening, we did go to that spot. And
Yeah.
that was a cool spot because there's a lot of alfalfa around, plus that pool. And it seemed secluded, like back where it was. So it seemed good. But then last light came out and we saw, I think, 2 doe come out. And then a little spike, and I told Greg, I'm going to shoot this spike. And, like, he kept wanting to come to the pool. And each time he took a step closer, me and Greg were just getting amped up, like, yeah, let's go. Keep coming. Because there's only, like, 10 minutes of light left. So we're trying to, like...
I know that feeling.
Hopefully he gets here. And all of a sudden, he just, like, takes off running to the east for whatever reason. It wasn't because he was spooked or anything. He just decided to go sprint, and... So it didn't happen that night.
Little bucks are kind of like does.
Yep, they do weird things.
It's weird.
not very predictable sometimes.
On our walk out, though, me and Greg were walking out, and we spotted eyes like 15 yards from us. It ended up being that spike just bedded there.
Oh,
It was
really?
weird.
That's
You
funny.
didn't shoot him?
Not then. It was funny because I had my headlight on, and Greg had his red light on, and Greg said he probably thought we were a car.
That's funny.
Probably right.
But,
so then the next morning was when you had
Yes.
crazy
So
stuff
we
happen.
went to the water tank that you guys saw bucks come to, and you actually sat up on it one day, but didn't see anything. Is that right?
Yes. Well, it's the day we stalked them up in the hills later, so none came to the actual
Yeah.
water like we had planned, but
Yeah.
they were up in the hills,
So we did the same thing, sat in your exact spot, and
which is a right-handed spot.
it's a right-handed spot. It is. You wouldn't think that because it's just, a
just a
patch of
spot.
grass, but the way it sets up, it's definitely better for a righty. But we were sitting there. We got in there early, and once you get there, it's pretty spooky because you're sitting right on the water tank. I mean, once they come, they're going to be in your face.
Oh, it's 11-yard shot.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, it's starting to get light, and I think Greg even said, like, this is about the time they came out the other morning. And, like, it was probably a minute or two after that, Greg spots a really big buck. And he's like, I can't see him because there's a patch of grass between me and him. And Greg's just like, stand up and range him and shoot him. So I start to get to do that, and I finally start to see him, and he's like 50 yards away, and he's going away. He's going.
He's going.
Oh, no.
And I start to stand up, and then Greg sees another buck. He's like, another buck, and it's coming to the water tank. So I sit back down, and I think that buck saw me move a little doing that because he locked up and was just looking at me and Greg. And he just stared us down for a good 5 minutes or more. And then a small buck came in front of him, came up to the
Smucks, man.
Smucks, yeah, dude.
I need
Yeah.
more caffeine for this.
They're not scared of anything because
No.
he came right up to the water tank, and I mean he was in our face just getting a drink, and then
Really?
he went.
So
out
you
of
went
there.
from trying to shoot spikes to passing
Yeah,
smokes.
well, when you have two big bucks near you, I mean,
I know.
what are you gonna
Yeah,
do?
I know.
And so he comes and goes, and that other one's still staring at us. But finally, he's like, I don't think that's anything. He starts coming in, and like you said, this is set up for a right-hander. So we had this plan that they were going to come from the northwest, and once they got to this solar panel, I could draw then and shoot in the little lane that you created. But they came from the southwest, the total opposite side, and he ends up walking in like the one shooting lane I have and gets to that solar panel, and that's when I drew, and I lean up, and then there's another buck behind me apparently, because as soon as I lean up, he takes off. The other small buck that came in takes off, and that big eight's just sitting there staring at me like 15 yards. And my bow's in this shooting lane that you created, and I try to get over on him, but I'm like catching on grass and stuff and just totally messed my shot up. And it's just like stuff like that. It's so much like hindsight 2020. Like it's just,
Yep.
what can I do different next time? And all those thoughts start going through your head. So I think next time I probably just wouldn't even shoot, and then maybe he spooks, goes out to 40 or something, and turns back because he didn't know what we were. He just knew something bad was about to happen. So that was neat.
Bit of nature that one.
Yeah. And then sat there for like 30, 40 minutes crying, and then ended up seeing two other
You've learned
bucks.
from us.
Yeah. Especially me.
Saw two other bucks come over a hill about a few hundred yards away, and this is our last morning there before we have to go up to South Dakota to meet with you guys. So I was like, let's make an aggressive push on these deer, and ran over there to the top of the hill because they went down at the bottoms where there's cattails. We got up there, just put some eyes on them, and we couldn't see anything, and tried to do a little wind bumping to see if they went down in the cattails, and the only thing that came out was two does. Apparently Greg almost stepped on one because once we got down in there, like we did that, I went down and talked to Greg, and we're talking, and the doe just like pops up out of the cattails right next to us. We're going back to the water tank though after that to get our things and get out of there, and we walk like 15 yards from this bush, and two different bucks jump up and take off running. And
Wait, so y'all were 15 yards from those deer when you jumped them?
Golly.
we were close.
Goodness.
And they
you didn't want to shoot them on the run?
I mean, I thought about it. I don't know. Is that what you're supposed to do?
I think so. You got to put it way out in front of them, though.
So they run up to this top of this little hill and look back at us, and me and Greg get down quickly as they're running away. And they're looking back, and they're kind of looking into the sun, so I don't think they got a good glimpse of what we were. And they just sat there again and looked at us for like 5+ minutes, I bet. And I ranged them there just to see what they were, and they're at 136.
Which pin is that? The blue one or the orange one?
That's the invisible one. Okay. That you lift up a little higher.
Put your stabilizer on them and shoot.
So they're staring at us, and finally the smaller one like starts to just slowly trot down the hill away from us, and the big one follows. And I knew they weren't that spooked because just by the way they trotted off. So they take off down this hill, and I went full sprint after them. I was like, I gotta try to shoot these things. And
Eric's pretty fast too.
Oh yeah,
I thought it was till I saw that GoPro, or not the GoPro clip, but the clip Greg took. I was like, man, I thought it was a lot faster.
Greg pulled the referee on you, backpedaling right beside you, filming.
The GoPro clip though, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So I run after him. I get up onto the hill that they're standing on, and I get up over it, and I see the little one, and he's like, I range him real quick, and he's at 43 or something like that. And I was like, man, I could shoot this thing right now. And so he gets behind these bushes, and I start trying to tiptoe sand spot to sand spot, and ended up seeing the other big one, and he's already bedded down under a bush. And I'm looking pretty much at a 90-degree angle from where he's looking into his right eye, and I just see his rack and head. And I range him, and he's 38. So he's shooting range for sure.
Sure enough.
And so I'm kind of caught, though, like what to do, and I knew we had to leave soon. And so I knew that, like, man, I can't sit here for another hour or two and just wait for him to stand up, which I probably should have done that, but it's just like so many things are going through your head then. And so I try to get closer to him to, like, maybe see his vitals and get a shot on him. And I take just like one step to my left, and he gets up, and they both just run away forever.
Forever.
That was it. So there'll be a video on that though this Sunday.
All right, dude.
That was a big hunt.
It was
a bunt, as they say, and like you had a lot of things go on, and that's good. We were talking about that, Tyler, after you told us what kind of morning you had when you were on the way up. After we got off the phone, Tyler and I were like, man, Eric learned a lot about hunting this morning.
And like I got up to Nebraska, I don't remember how many days before you guys, like a week or something.
Yeah,
before.
38 or 39 days, I think.
And so I hunted a bunch and like had a rough time of just not seeing deer. And so to have a morning like that, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you ended it maybe on success, even if you didn't shoot one.
Yep.
Tyler, you and I, congrats on that too, Eric, by the way. I know it was a fun morning. You and I did shoot some bucks. And we shot bucks with 2 different arrow setups, but similar results. We both got full pass-throughs with our arrows, right?
Yep.
You shoot what?
I shoot a Vector ZMR, which is kind of their lighter offering of the 2 arrows that they currently have. And it's what I shot last year. It's actually I think it's going to be about 25 grains lighter than what I shot last year. I'm right at close to 500, maybe just slightly under. And I'm using a 125 grain, biggest 3-blade mechanical I can find pretty much. It's pretty well made. And I had a pass-through stuck in the dirt.
I shot my deer with the same mechanical, and I had a pass-through stuck in the dirt. But I'm using an HMR. And I actually used I think we both did. We had the new fletchings on our arrows. Vector's kind of gone to an AAE fletching. It's quieter, but still just as stable, and I really, really like it, and like the way it performed. So I'm going to shoot a little bit heavier. Eric's got ZMRs too, I believe, right? Yep. And they treat us pretty nicely. They're pretty good arrows. It's pretty cool to be able to just punch in some numbers and get them set up exactly to your specs. And if you like those mechanical broadheads, guys, it may not be the answer for everything. And we'll talk about South Dakota later.
Yeah, we will.
But you should check out theelementwild.com because we have got a merchandise shop over there, and you can make mechanicals great again. I actually have on that shirt today.
Look at you.
That's right.
Red, white, and blue. Patriotic, man.
Just a patriot cruising
American
down the
religion.
highway.
Golly, you're such a Good dude.
Oh, man.
He's such a good dude.
Yeah, that's it. All capital G, capital O, capital D, baby.
Good.
That's it. But you should check that out along with some of our other merchandise. If you like to express yourself, but you want to express yourself in a PG manner like we do, sometimes when the deer spook, Eric, when those deer spooked out on you, what did you say?
Dadgummit.
Dadgummit, man. We got a couple Dadgummit shirts on there I think y'all will like as well. So check some of that stuff out. We're actually about to ship out quite a few shirts today to some folks. We appreciate the support.
We're not.
Well, tomorrow.
They like
right
to take
now,
off every holiday they can.
It's Indigenous Italian Explorers Day, I think. So we'll ship those tomorrow, guys. So they'll be on the way, I promise. But I thank y'all for listening. Remember, there is more Element shirts coming along. There are more Element episodes coming along because there are more deer going down. Y'all have a great fall. It's rocking and rolling time. Remember, this is your Element.
Live in it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.